Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is a Conquest video looking at Sector 5, Conquest 19 for SM-33. Feat progress after 3 days, how efficient that we were, which squads that we were using for it, and we're going to break down my Datadisks choices, my thought process behind them, kind of combos we're building, and then how we tackled the boss nodes. After Sector 5 and pushing this for 3 days, the global feats are pretty much where they were after Sector 4. A little bit more progress on crit damage down and light side unaligned force users. Bad Batch, we made a progress of 1, but most of this will be handled over the next several days. I'll probably have Red Crate by the end of Friday, maybe sometime on Saturday. Sector feats, we only got 2 out of 4 this playthrough, but this easily could be 4 out of 4 in a single playthrough had we not had stamina issues, which we only had because we were making videos and doing extra refreshes to try and play these sectors quickly, which prevented us from having the time for our characters to refresh stamina. And the next couple months, that's not going to be the same issue because I'm not going to do this over 3 days. We'll do it over 4 or 5, just doing the 50 crystal refreshes. Plus, next time, or really next week, we're going to have Scorch. And Scorch is going to make the Order 66 way easier because you're going to stop losing Apo if you're using Lord Vader. Now, there is a cheese out there. If you don't have Lord Vader, consider the cheese. But if you pay attention to my videos, I am in spirit against cheesing, except only when necessary. And it's just not necessary for this sector if you do have Lord Vader. Especially when really the best clone for Order 66, at least maybe until Scorch, is Apo. In Sector 5, you've got 3 strong options in terms of squads. One of them is extremely accessible with the Jedi because you have marked coming from Jedi Knight Revan, and you only need to get like 10 marked. It's not that many. You can spread it out quickly. And then Evasion Down, the MVP here, is going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, who applies Evasion Down on basic. So just keep calling Obi-Wan with every available assist, and you're going to make a lot of progress per battle. You can probably get 2 marks off very quickly in each battle as well. And with Evasion Down, there's actually not that many characters in the game that apply it. The other best option would be Bastila Fallen and Cal Kestis. And Cal Kestis is going to work with those light side unaligned force users. So if you need to spread out some attacks, spread out some stamina usage, you can make a light side squad under Seer June to lead and work on a global plus the sector feat. But marked is also a mechanic that is really highlighted by the new fugitive mercenary Bad Batch squad. Batcher applies it, Hunter applies it. You can get multiple marks off per battle. Depends on what kind of nodes you get and the survivability, but you can also lose the battle and still make progress. So just throwing this squad in from time to time is going to give you some strong opportunities to knock marked off in just a couple nodes. Order 66 is a new mechanic exclusive to our latest marquees, the Dark Side clones, which is a little surprising that we're getting a feat related to them so early. This is also a feat that is going to be far less annoying next week when Scorch is available, because once you have Scorch and you have Lord Vader with a full squad of Dark Side clones, that means Apo is going to have Coruscant Commander, and you can't lose him while Lord Vader is active, which means he's going to be the best character at applying Order 66 because his only condition is to use the ability No Witnesses on a character who has 8 stacks of damage over time, which with Vader, that's like 2 turns and you hit that precondition. And this week, especially when you're like me and have low stamina, that is a lot harder because Apo gets knocked out pretty quickly by an AoE. And it's also why, once Scorch is available, a cheese is unnecessary and why I don't think it's something to really consider if you have Lord Vader, because you have to do the 14 Empire battles anyway, which would make Lord Vader one of your best squad options, and over 14 battles, you're going to get 10 Order 66. Now, without Lord Vader, then that cheese that uses CX2 is something to consider. I believe it needs to have Voluntary Vanguard, which I don't have. You can take a look for it. But it's relying on the mechanic from CX2 where you need to hit the same target 3 times, then he applies Order 66. That, though, requires far much more effort that is unnecessary if you do have the ideal squad. At this time, the Tarkin rework rework has gone live, but unfortunately, other than adding some survivability and some other stats, he's not doing a lot with these clones, which means he's not going to be helping out Order 66. So he's not really a leader that I would be considering here. One thing that is worth considering, now I haven't tried this, but just thinking things through right now, Darth Vader lead, that is going to synergize with Apo's ability to inflict Order 66. And maybe there's a little fusion mechanics that we could build here, and we could pull out Scorch, we could throw in Darth Malak. Now we have a Taunt who can inflict fear, control those mechanics, and now maybe we can do both. We can do a fusion of CX2 with Malak, but also having Vader to synergize with Apo. Also, CX2 applies Disarm, and Disarm, when the character who is disarmed takes a turn, they get a stack of damage over time. So that's going to speed up the stacks to those 8 stacks of damage over time that are required for Apo to convert the dots into Order 66. And since with Vader those dots are not going to expire, it might be a lot easier to spread the Order 66 once the cooldowns happen with Apo. But this might require the right node to try it on, and it's not something I've just thought of right now, so I haven't played around with it. Didn't make any changes to discs, just been using the same combos. That's just more of an issue of wanting to conserve stamina. I do have a number of interesting discs I would like to experiment with, particularly some turn meter mechanics, also some assisting mechanics that we've been collecting. But for these videos and going through these sectors, what I've liked the most, Amplify Agony, that's always a S tier disc. This Ruthless Debilitation I've really liked, and I've been a big fan of Assertive Command. That one I want to pair with Stacking Fervor, which I now have. With my choices at the first node, we had some good options with Quickening, a Blue Vitality, and Protection Shield. Down below, we had some solid green ones. I grabbed that blue Quickening because I had versions of the other ones. At the crossroads top node, we have good options, but we already have them. In the middle, Solid Intel's the best one, but we have a blue one of those. And on the bottom, we have an interesting choice. We have Stacking Fervor, which I want, but we also have Thermal Exhaust, which I passed on earlier and I haven't seen again till now. It seems like, I don't know for certain, but there might be the case where there's only gray Thermal Exhaust available, which I'm not sure how I feel about, but it does pair well with a lot of the discs that we have in this current set. We have Caustic Emissions, we have Amplify Agony, we have a lot of debuff mechanics with the Dark Side clones, or even these new Bad Batch characters where Thermal Exhaust is going to be quite potent under those squads that we are already heavily using in these conquests. So I am interested in it, but I grabbed the Stacking Fervor because that one I've been wanting, and I was kind of hoping we'd find a Thermal Exhaust later. At the next fork, we've got a Caustic Emissions. We have Volatile Hyper Accelerator, and that's one of those discs that would be paired with Caustic Emissions or Thermal Accelerator. Characters who, when they take turns, are getting debuffs, and that disc is going to allow those characters to take more turns more quickly. And if you have Thermal Exhaust, when they're taking those turns, they're converting all those debuffs into thermal detonators, and that's how that becomes very dangerous. We've seen versions of that before. And down below, nothing good. Fierce Persistence and Master's Technique. I grabbed the Volatile Hyper Accelerator. It's just best available. And at the end, some weaker crons other than the War of Attrition, which best available, so we grab it. We can make some turn meter combos with it, like if we use the War of Attrition with the Quickening. And actually, now that we have a full collection of discs, we can talk about the types of combos that we can be building, some of the variety of options here. Like, we can take the War of Attrition or that Painful Trials. Those have turn meter mechanics. One is inflicting a debuff related, one is when a debuff expires related, but both are either removing turn meters from the enemy or giving allies turn meter. There's a push and pull there, but it all just ends up with speeding up your own turn meter mechanics, which you can build off of, either with Quickening, which is giving allied units extra speed, or you can do it with Solid Intel. Whenever they're critically hit, they're going to gain buffs, which is going to stack with another disc like Stacking Offense, where whenever an ally gains a buff, they also gain 5% offense stacking. Now, I didn't grab any of those critical buff discs, but you can easily see how that would fit into here. You throw critical buffs with Stacking Offense, pair it with something like Solid Intel, and now you have a combo where both you are getting speed and you are getting buffs that are feeding into the stacking offense of your squad, while also feeding these larger turn meter mechanics. So this first version is buff, turn meter, and stacking offense. We can also have a debuff related disc set, which is going to pair very nicely with the types of characters we are incentivized to use these conquests, particularly the dark side clones and the Vaders, with the damage over times mechanics, which we can build off of with caustic emissions, which is just going to add extra damage over time. We can pair that with amplify agony, which debuffs are going to do more max health damage, and weak spot, where those debuffs means extra stacking offense, and then thermal exhaust, which will convert those debuffs into thermal detonators. And all of that means we are doing a lot of max health damage, which we can also stack with volatile hyper accelerator, where whenever the enemy is taking a turn, they're receiving additional max health damage. Plus, when we deal damage to the enemy, they're going to gain speed, which means they're taking more turns, receiving more damage, getting more stacks of caustic emission, which is being converted into thermal exhaust, and it's adding to the stacking offense of weak spot. And all that means they're going to lose health and protection very quickly, and when they fall below 100% health, we're going to have double duty going with Ruthless Debilitation, which is going to give them Armor Shred and Healing Immunity, and we have Ruthless Offense here, which is going to give us additional stacking offense. Now we also have War of Attrition. You don't want to stack War of Attrition and Hyper Accelerator. They're going to fight each other. You're going to choose between one of them. And then, if you, like me, you might have another Amplify Agony that you can pair in there instead of using like the War of Attrition or the Hyper Accelerator, or maybe you have more caustic emissions. And this last combo, now I don't have all the pieces of this because I actually didn't grab that stacking fervor that I thought I did. You can do some mechanics that are going to add some survivability, or we can be working towards attacks out of turn. And what's nice with this is Assertive Command, which I have been really liking with Assertive Command. You use a basic, you're calling a random ally to assist. Now if we had Stacking Fervor, which is similar to Stacking Offense, but with Stacking Fervor, an attack out of turn means stacking offense. So just imagine this stacking offense is a stacking fervor that's pairing with Assertive Command. And then we could do opportunistic support, where those attacks out of turn is also adding recovery. There's also an alternate version where attacks out of turn adds recovery to protection, which is one I actually like a lot more because it's awesome on gas. Boss nodes, the middle boss, we've got win with Ahsoka Tano. Straightforward, not going to apply to everyone, and unguarded, win the battle with no tanks in your squad. In the case of Ahsoka, nothing to really break down here, just having the characters is enough to win it. You can see we've got some pretty depleted stamina, and it's a non-issue. We're even going to play this at 2x speed because of how much of a non-issue it is. Now we are dealing with Great Mother and Marin. Exile has been doomed, but we do have a tank to taunt and to protect him. We're more just forced into dealing with Morgan, but she goes down very quickly. Put Mirai's Wisdom somewhere. And once Morgan's done, it's very easy to target Great Mother, and then once she's gone, it's already won. For no tanks, you have a lot of options. I went with Cadme because I like the fact that the decoy is going to serve as a tank functionally. But if you don't have Cadme available, there's some GLs that are just going to get you through it, like Jabba you can build a non-tank Hutt Cartel squad out of, or you can be looking at JMK and just building a fast attacker squad out of. And with JMK, I'd probably bring in R2, so that R2 can function as a soft tank with his stealth mechanics. But in my case, we went with Cadme, who is a great option here. Now we don't get the decoy right away, and they do doom Qui-Gon, which on its face would seem like a problem. But with all the Amplify Agony that we have, Pow just blows them up. I do not have the Ami on Pow. And we already have 3 stars, so who cares? Final boss, we have Baylan's skull, defeat an enemy, and good soldier, win with crosshair, surviving. Now that is one I tried a couple different ways. I tried it with JML and Watt with the tank tech to try and protect crosshair. Didn't work. Tried it with the OG Bad Batch squad and the new Bad Batch squad, and there just wasn't the survivability on crosshair. So that one I think I'm going to be skipping. Maybe someone else will find a cheese to it. I don't think it's one I'm going to be too concerned over. Defeat an enemy with Baylan. Straightforward, but that's only on the condition that you have Baylan. Now with my Baylan, you see we're pretty depleted, and that is because I didn't look ahead to see who was on the boss node, so I was using my Baylan to work on the crit damage down global feat, because Dash Rendar here is on the team to contribute towards that. Hondo is very useful, you just got to be careful with the capture. And in the case of this Dash squad, that just means throw it onto somebody who is not a tank and somebody who's not going to be lost to AoEs. I'm going to throw it on SM-33 so we don't need to worry about SM-33's mechanics, and so we can go after Vandor without issue. Get that AoE stun out. I'm using a basic because I don't want to accidentally take out SM-33 anymore. So no AoEs until we get those stacks of captive for Hondo, which we now have. We had a moment of vulnerability on Ness, so we took her out. That wraps up our Conquest content. Up in the corner, the Datacron video. So as you are working on the rest of these feats, working on collecting Datacron resources, you can keep that video in mind, which breaks down into tiers my feelings about all of the Datacrons. I give a blurb on each one. And then down below, we'll throw in something, but really it's about the next several days where we're going to be putting out a kit reveal on Scorch, as well as some other content. Thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.